Hi guys, what are we gonna do today? Do you guys remember the stamp video we just did? How to cut your own stamps? I found a way to utilize those already. Look what we're gonna do, make these cute placemats. Let's get started. So, to get started, here are our templates. In the description of the video, you're gonna be able to download these templates. One of them is going to show you the fork, knife, and spoon and the dimensions of your circles. The other one, I've written out some instructions so you can have them right with you if you need them while you're working on this project. So the first thing we're gonna do is pick our fabric, and you're gonna cut your fabric and some cotton batting 15 by 19. I'm using a piece of linen here, but you could use cotton, muslin, any fabric that you would like to use. And I've also cut my cotton batting, and it is behind here. What we need to do next is transfer these images onto our fabric. What I'm going to do first is cut my fork out, and I'm gonna cut my knife and my spoon from the other side. Since these are not the literal sizes, these are just telling you what the sizes will need to be. So I'm gonna take my 12-inch object that I am going to draw on here. So when you're doing this, don't forget you're going to need another piece of fabric for the backing, whether you want to use the same as a front or a different type of fabric. You will need that later on when we are finishing up our place setting. So I have my 19 inches running horizontally and my 15 inches running vertically. So I am going to just center this 12-inch. You're going to need a little bit more room to the right for your knife and spoon. There I go. I'm going to take a pencil and just draw this 12-inch circle. Okay. My next circle is going to be a 9-inch circle. You can decide, do you just want one thin rim next to it? Do you want to do the 3 circles? You can really decide what you would like to do here. So I'm just going to eyeball this and put my 9-inch circle in the center of here and draw with my pencil again. And then I'm going to do a 7-inch circle in the center. Now, to transfer these pieces, I'm going to use a piece of carbon paper. These two bottom edges are the same height, so you want to measure from the bottom of your paper to the bottom of your fabric. The same amount that these will be lined up. So you can decide where you want your utensils. I'm taking a small piece of carbon paper, but you can use whatever your favorite way of transferring, whether it's an iron-on marker, it's carbon paper, or you could even just freehand it if you would like. And I'm just going to draw over my lines that I already have here. So now we're going to put our cotton batting back behind here, and I'm going to use 3 strands of floss and backstitch all of these lines. So you can use whatever colors you would like on this, or even make all the colors different. I just wanted to stay with the neutral color scheme because then I was going to stamp stamps in the center in the same color theme. And I'm using 3 strands of floss. I do a quilters. Not everyone likes to knot threads in their own way. And all I do is lay my needle on the end of the threads. I wrap it around several times, hold on to my threads, and I am going to pull the needle up through it. It's like doing a French knot. And so I have an instant knot. And all I'm gonna do is a back stitch. Now, if you would like to, you can pin to keep this nice in place. So when you are working on your stitching, things don't move around. Now I'm going to start with my center circle and work my way out doing my back stitch. And I said you could pin this or base this if you would like, if you're afraid it is going to move. find if I start in the center and I pull out this way and make sure that stays smooth, then I can do my next line and make sure that's gonna stay smooth. If I start at the outside and there's a pucker in here, you know everything after that is gonna be puckered. So I'm just gonna continue doing this back stitch on all the lines that we have transferred on here. So I backstitched all of my pieces on here, and then I just did a running basting stitch just to hold my batting to the back. I'm gonna trim this up and sew the back on. I'm gonna cut this down. I want this a little closer, so this will be closer to 14 inches. So I'm gonna cut these two ends off real quickly. I'm just gonna cut a couple straight lines here just to trim this. And you can see my basting stitches are in where my cut lines are gonna be. And you can really make this as big or as small as you would like. And after I wash it, it will shrink down also. So here's my backing. So what I'm gonna do with this backing piece is I am going to fold it this way in half. And in the center, I am going to cut a slit. Probably about 3 inches or so, 2 or 3 inches. I want it large enough that when I turn this inside out, I can do that easily. So don't forget you want your right sides together when you are sewing this together. So I'm gonna pin this together to hold it in place while I sew it so it doesn't move around. Now we are going to sew all the way around this. And I've given myself about a 1/4 inch seam allowance around the outside edge. So I'm gonna pull all my pins out and I'm gonna trim my edges so it doesn't buckle when I turn it inside out. And we're also going to clip the corners, like right here. You don't want to cut through your thread, but I'm doing a straight line at all 4 of the corners. And I am just going to trim just a little bit of this excess off. You could use pinking shears or just cut straight. Now through this slit right here, we are going to turn it inside out. Grab my corners and pull them through. Okay, we're gonna need to iron this down, and I am gonna pull out my basting stitches. So now what we're gonna do is iron this down, and we are going to close the slit that is in back. Okay, so I'm gonna iron this down, get it nice and smooth. I'm putting parchment paper over the top. This is a steam-a-seam, it's just a fusible web, strip 2 inches wide, and then just a little bigger than how big your slit is. So depending on how big you make your slit. So I'm going to use the same linen, and I am ironing this onto one side of this linen. So if you're using a pattern fabric, you're going to want to make sure you put your fusible web on the back side of your fabric. And I want to trim around this, but I want to make sure I have trimmed in to the fusible web, because I want every edge of this to be sealed down, and if it's not covered with the fusible web, that will unravel. So I'm going to peel this backing off, and you will see the side is shiny, and you put this down over your slit. And I'm just gonna iron this on here, and this will seal it. And I'm using a heavy-duty steam-a-seam, so even when I wash this, this will not come off. So do you guys recognize these? From one of our last videos we did recently, we had cut these lino and these rubber stamps. This is what I'm going to use to decorate the front of my place setting. I'm just going to be using my black ink, and I'm using my IOD ink. You want to make sure you're using a permanent ink. I'm using a brayer. You want to make sure it is very juicy and you have a lot of ink on here, because on the fabric it is going to want to soak it up. Okay. Now, hate to say this, but you get one shot at this. Press it down, press everywhere on here. Now I'm going to use 2 of my lino stamps. So if you saw in our lino cutting video, usually when I'm using a lino stamp, I would lay my piece on top and use it more as printing. But on this, I really want to see where I'm going on this, so I'm just going to make sure I have just pressed on every area before picking it up. And then we also need some carrots. And you could do this in color. I just wanted to keep the whole motif black and white. So our last step on this, you want to heat set this before you wash it. So I'm going to lay my parchment paper over the top, and I'm going to use my iron, and I'm going to heat set this. And there we go. So the only other thing that you could do is do a running stitch around here, wash it up, and you're going to have a beautiful place setting. So what did you think? This is kind of fun. You could even do it as a huge long table runner, or as many as you would need, and they are washable. The other thing that I didn't do with this last one, you can see, you could also stamp the back, the extra piece that you have, to make that decorative. And you can see that it did shrink up. I even like it better when it's washed up. So I can't wait to get in and wash this guy up. Hope you try this out, but have fun.